There's a kind of story you hear in certain parts of this country, not just one state, not just one region. You hear it in the bayous of Louisiana. You hear it in the hollows of Appalachia. You hear it in the suburbs of Phoenix, the trailer parks outside Tulsa, the quiet cul-de-sacs of Central Florida. The details change slightly depending on who's telling it, but the core of it stays the same, like a bone that won't break no matter how hard you try. They come for the unbaptized ones, the unnamed ones, the new ones. People call them different things depending on where you're from. In the swamp country, old-timers call them feeders. Up in the hill country of Tennessee, some folks say hollow women. In the desert Southwest, you might hear the word skin turners used in a whisper, never out loud, never after dark. But whatever you call them, the story is always the same. Story 1. The Bruises, reported from Beaumont, Texas. Marcus didn't believe any of it until his brother-in-law called him at 2 a.m., voice completely flat, in that way that scared him more than screaming would have. The baby had been crying, a wrong kind of crying, Marcus said. Not hungry crying, not wet crying. The kind of sound that made the hair on your arms stand up, even if you didn't know why. What they couldn't understand was why Devin and his wife weren't waking up. Both of them were home. Both of them were in that room. But neither one stirred. Marcus and his girlfriend broke through the bedroom door and found Devin and his wife lying so still they thought for a moment both of them were dead. The baby's crib was empty. They found the child under the bed. 9 bruises, perfectly round, arranged in a pattern nobody wanted to think too hard about. And the window that had been locked, was standing wide open. Whatever left through it, Marcus said he heard the sound of very large wings. The second story ended worse. A family in rural East Texas, a baby girl, 7 weeks old. By the time the neighbors got there, drawn outside by a sound they described as a large bird hitting a power line, the child was already gone. They saw a shape at the tree line. Big. Wrong. It rose into the air, and as it did, it seemed to catch fire from the inside. Not burning, just glowing. And then it was just a ball of orange light moving south until it disappeared. The medical examiner ruled it undetermined cause of death. The family nailed scissors above every window in the house the next morning. Open scissors, blades spread wide like a cross. They said their pastor told them why that works. Something about the iron in the steel and the shape of the cross together. But honestly, they didn't care why. They just did it, and nothing ever came back. Story 2. The Scratching, reported from Harlan County, Kentucky. Janet grew up not believing a word of it. Her grandmother talked about these things the way some grandmothers talk about the devil. Real, present, something you set your house against every night. When Janet's youngest was born in 2019, she moved back home temporarily while her husband finished a work contract up in Ohio. She was going to wait until he came back before they did the baptism. Wanted him there for it. She'd been home about 3 weeks when her grandmother came to her, serious-faced, and said she needed to move the baby into her bedroom. Janet almost argued. She almost laughed. She didn't. Something in the old woman's face stopped her. That night, around 2 in the morning, Janet woke to the sound of scratching at the window glass, like fingernails, like something testing the frame, looking for a way in. her grandmother was already awake, already praying, lips moving fast and silent, one hand on the baby. Then the scratching moved to the roof. Whatever was up there moved slowly, deliberately, from one end of the roof to the other, like it was learning the shape of the house. Her grandmother's voice never wavered. She just prayed louder and woke everyone else up and brought them all into that room and told them to pray with her. Eventually, and Janet said it felt like hours, but was probably 40 minutes, the sound stopped. In the morning, her grandmother went up to the roof and found the motion sensor light they'd installed up there completely shattered. Not fallen, shattered. Pieces spread out in a wide radius, like something had hit it deliberately. They called the pastor. They got the baby baptized that Thursday instead of waiting. Thursday night, the scratching came back. This time, Janet's brother-in-law was ready with a hunting knife and a flashlight. Neighbors came out. They heard something large move off the roof into the tree line and then rise. A sound like a tarp in a heavy wind, but rhythmic, beating. A ball of light lifted from the trees and moved north until it was gone. The pastor came the next morning and blessed the house. Nothing came back after that. Story 3. What the neighbor saw. Reported from Bernalillo County. Relocated in this telling to Harlingen, Texas. Bobby was 6 months old and hadn't been baptized yet when he died. His family has never accepted the official explanation, which was SIDS. What they remember is what their neighbor Reyes saw. And Reyes was not a woman who exaggerated. She was awake late, praying like she did most nights, when the whistling started. Not wind whistling, deliberate, rhythmic. She said it felt like it was aimed at her specifically, like it was trying to get inside her skull. Every time she stopped praying, a wave of sleep hit her so hard, her eyes rolled back. She'd catch herself and start praying again, and it would lift. She got to the window. 4 large owls, bigger than any owls she'd ever seen, were sitting on the corners of the roof next door, one on each corner, perfectly still. Eyes lit up orange in the dark. Reyes tried to wake her husband. He could barely open his eyes. She shook him, and he looked at her like he was underwater. She pounded on the wall. She called out. By the time she got next door and got anyone to answer the door, it was already too late. Bobby's mother had slept through all of it. All of it. Bobby was gone. To this day, families in that part of Texas who have an unbaptized infant keep a candle burning next to the crib all night. Just a small candle and a jar of salt on the windowsill. It sounds like superstition. Reyes would tell you it's not. Story 4. The crib that couldn't move. Reported from Pflugerville, Texas, 2004. Daniel tells this story the same way every time because he's told it so many times he's worn it smooth. They'd just moved into a new subdivision. People on the street had already warned them, half joking, that the development was built on old farmland and that the old families in the area had stories about the area going back generations. Daniel and his wife didn't think much of it. Their daughter Rosie was 9 days old. They had a crib, the kind with the locking wheels, the kind that was physically engineered not to roll or rock once locked in place. His wife put the baby down while she was already asleep. They were downstairs for maybe 20 minutes. Then a sound from upstairs. Heavy, like something hitting a wall, His wife knew before she even started running. They found Rosie on the floor. The window was open. The crib had not moved. The wheels were still locked, still in their indentations in the carpet. There was no explanation for how a 9-day-old infant moved from the center of a locked crib to the floor. Daniel doesn't offer theories anymore. He just tells it straight and lets people sit with it. Story 5. The Turkey and the Silver Needle. Reported from multiple locations: Louisiana, Tennessee, and Guadalajara, Mexico. This is where the stories get harder to explain away, because the same creature shows up in too many places for coincidence to cover it comfortably. In the swamp parishes of Louisiana, old Creole families call it the Grand Gobeur, the Great Swallower. It comes at night, looking like an enormous bird, bigger than any bird that belongs in this world, with eyes like 2 burning coals. In the hill country of East Tennessee, it's called simply the turkey, spoken flatly, without irony, because the people who've seen it are not joking and don't need you to take them seriously. They know what they saw. In both traditions, the creature is believed to be a person, a woman usually, who has learned to separate herself from her own body. She rubs herself with a specific kind of grease and steps out of her arms and legs like stepping out of a coat. And in that state, she can take a different shape entirely. She comes for the young ones, the new ones, the ones not yet named in the eyes of whatever she fears. A woman who grew up outside of Lake Charles, Louisiana, told me this. She was maybe 8 years old, playing outside her grandmother's house at dusk, which she was not supposed to be doing, and she knew it. Her little sister grabbed her arm and pointed up into the old cypress tree at the edge of the property. Something enormous was perched up there, bigger than a wild turkey, bigger than anything that should be in a cypress tree. Its eyes caught the last of the light and glowed. They started screaming for their grandmother. The old woman came out, took one look, and ordered them inside. "Go find my sewing basket," she said. "Thread a needle, silver thread. Do it now." They didn't understand it, but they did it. They could hear their grandmother outside, praying in a mix of English and something older, her voice steady and unafraid. The thing in the tree made a sound, not a gobble, not quite a screech, something between the two that made the girls' stomachs drop. Then it was gone. That night, they slept with open scissors on the windowsill. The next part of that woman's story is the part people remember. The following evening, a group of men from the community, some with shotguns, some with dogs, went out to the field at the edge of the property line. The women stayed back and prayed. A ball of fire appeared in the sky to the south, moving low and slow. The women prayed harder. The ball of fire seemed to wobble. Then it dropped. The men and dogs rushed to where it landed and found a woman there. A woman they recognized, on her hands and knees in the dirt, shaking, naked, disoriented. They took her to the county jail and called for the pastor from the next town over. By the time the pastor arrived the next morning, the cell was empty. The lock hadn't been touched. The window was intact. She was simply gone. A final note. People who collect these stories, folklorists, paranormal researchers, people who just listen, tend to notice the same thing eventually. The scissors, the open windows, the unnatural sleep, the bruises in perfect circles, the wrong-sized bird with burning eyes, the ball of fire that rises and vanishes. These details don't travel by internet. Many of the people who report them have never met each other, never read the same books, never lived anywhere near each other. A grandmother in Louisiana, and a grandmother in Tennessee, and a grandmother in Deep South Texas all told their grandchildren the same things. Keep a candle burning. Put scissors by the window. Get the child named and blessed before too many nights pass. Whether you believe any of it is your business, but if you have a new baby in the house tonight, an unnamed one, an unbaptized one, maybe leave a light on. Maybe don't lock the scissors away. It costs you nothing. And the people who've seen what comes through open windows in the dark would tell you, it costs you everything not to. These accounts were collected from oral tradition. Names have been changed or omitted at the request of the families involved.